With the recent house search and subsequent arrest of local Delphi resident Richard Allen, it begs the question, did something go wrong with the investigation post the 2019 press conference, or was this all connected as part of the bigger picture?
The video shows a suspect walking on the bridge. When you see the video, watch the person's mannerisms as they walk. Watch the mannerisms as he walks. Do you recognize the mannerisms as being someone that you might know? Remember, he is walking on the former railroad bridge. Because of the deteriorated condition of the bridge, the suspect is not walking naturally due to the spacing between the ties.
So very early on in this press conference, we have talk about the man on the bridge. Look closely at his mannerisms. Now, I think Doug Carter, in his mind, had the word subtle mannerisms. He says, look closely at his mannerisms as he walks across the bridge. It's almost as if he was going to say subtle mannerisms, but for some reason stopped himself. But mannerisms, what are they? It's the way in which someone carries themselves, or the way that they move their head slightly. Maybe he bows his head. Is that familiar to you? But for a lot of people listening to this, it would appear quite confusing, because on one hand he's saying, look closely at the mannerisms, the way in which this man is walking. But then in the next breath, he's actually saying, be careful at looking at the way he's walking, because he's walking on a dilapidated railway bridge with spacing between the ties, and that's going to affect the way he's walking and his gait. So, as I say, a little bit confusing. But what strikes me and what sticks out to me is that if these individuals, or if this individual's mannerisms and the way in which he walked was so important, then why did law enforcement not go back to people who were actually there that day, who actually claimed to be there that day? We've got Richard Allen, who said he's come forward to the police or to that conservation officer. Why are you not going back and looking at people, or at least starting with people who actually claimed that they were there that day? Not just dismissing it as unfounded, or, he's probably just trying to insert himself into the investigation for some kind of popularity. Why not go back to these people? If this is such an imperative point, or something that's really stuck out to you here, okay, we're looking for someone who walks like this, his leg moves like that, or he's got these certain mannerisms. Why are they not focusing on the people that they've already spoken to, or at least the people that actually claim to have been there that day? Not just claim to have been in the area, but actually put themselves on the bridge. Richard Allen said he actually was on the bridge that day. Why are they not talking to these people, or at least going back and looking at those individuals very closely?
During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls.
And then we move on to discussion regarding the sketches. The original sketch is now going to become secondary, and the sketch we're about to show you of the younger individual we believe is responsible for the deaths of Liberty German and Abigail Williams. The age range is 18 to 40. When I go back now and I listen to this, I don't know if this is just an absolute complete crapshoot here. I just don't understand it really. There's nothing, it just doesn't seem to be anything definitive whatsoever. We had the old sketch, we had the young sketch, we had the Doug Carter interview recently where, as I said in a recent video, he sounded quite boastful about this new sketch. When the interviewer said to him, but it doesn't look anything like Richard Allen, or it didn't look anything like the original sketch. And then Doug Carter replied with, isn't that something? Almost as if, yes, okay, releasing that sketch brought in more tips. It opened or widened the investigation further, and eventually we landed on Richard Allen. But in this press conference, they're saying that they believe that this individual is responsible for the deaths of Liberty German and Abigail Williams. But this guy looks about 18. He hasn't even got facial hair. Doesn't even look old enough to have facial hair, to be perfectly honest. Now, the more that we go into this press conference, the more I start to believe that actually, as I said earlier, this was just throwing darts in the dark, really. 18 to 40 in terms of an age range. One sketch that looks like someone who's 40 to 50. One sketch that looks like it's someone 18 to, I don't know, maybe 22. Very strange. Very, very odd.
We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age.
We also have some talk here of this being a local resident, a Delphi resident, someone who either lives in Delphi or visits Delphi on a regular basis. Now, this isn't just some stroke of, pure genius here. I mean, this is probably one of the most obvious factors in this case. The fact that this guy is walking across this bridge with his hands in his pockets as if he's done this 10 times before should tell us that this is an individual who is local. It's someone who has been on this bridge before. That's the impression you get when you see that video. This isn't just someone who has stumbled across the Monon High Bridge whilst driving past. This is someone who has walked that bridge previously. So the fact that they're talking about a local Delphi resident, which albeit does resonate with what we know at this stage regarding Richard Allen, that's probably one of the most glaring and obvious factors in this case. Even back in 2019, even back when they recovered the video, that should have been fairly evident that they're most likely, and you can't discount other possibilities, but the most likely scenario here is that we're looking for someone who lives in the local area, the local community.
Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you, and you want to know what we know. And one day, you will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered 2 little girls? 2 children. Only a coward would do such a thing. We are confident that you have told someone what you have done. Or at the very least, they know because of how different you are since the murders.
Now we move on to discussion regarding a change of strategy, switching of gears, moving in a different direction. And I think we need to remember that from this point, they then move on to Keegan Kline. Now, a lot of people will say, well, this is just a glaring mistake, and they've now ended up back at Richard Allen. But the truth of the matter is, at this point in time, we just don't know, do we? We don't know if they did head off in the wrong direction, and they ended up full circle back to Richard Allen. But we also equally don't know whether there is some connection here between Keegan Kline and Richard Allen, which I believe is the most favourable option at this point. And as I say, at this stage in November 2022, we don't know for certain if there is a connection between Keegan Kline and Richard Allen. There is every possibility here, at least in my mind, that police did go off in terms of the direction of Keegan Kline, and that eventually led them to Richard Allen. They may have had to have gone through Keegan Kline to get to Richard Allen. Interestingly, as a side note, I saw quite an interesting video yesterday regarding some of the phone usage, the account usage of the Anthony Shots account, and the fact that the police would have had to have, requested details from certain service providers, etc. But what I feel that creator missed when talking about that, he basically said, look, there can't be a connection here between Richard Allen and Keegan Kline, because during the Keegan Kline interview, they didn't say to him at any stage, look, we've got your phone logging in from this address in Delphi. Who is this individual? Who is Richard Allen? And what I feel that everyone should be wary of is overestimating what the police actually know at a certain stage. And what I mean by that is that we don't know if Richard Allen was very well versed in hiding his online persona or his online identity. It isn't always just as easy as, recovering these apps, recovering messages and linking them to a certain IP address. Many people who are into this kind of CSAM stuff, or maybe they're members of forums or websites, whatever, on the darknet, a lot of these individuals are incredibly well versed in hiding their identity. Why do you think that there are so many of these individuals out there that are never caught? Because it is difficult. It is difficult sometimes to peel the mask back and find out who these individuals are. It isn't just a case of, okay, this person sent a message. They could hide their IP. They could then have email accounts they've created through the darknet. There's various ways in which they can distance themselves from their actual physical address. So believe me, it's not that easy just to say, okay, this person sent a message. Who is Richard Allen? We've got a login here from Richard Allen's address. For all we know, Richard Allen, if there is some connection here, and again, I use that word if there is some connection between Richard Allen and Keegan Kline, we don't know what capability he had, as I say, in terms of hiding his online presence. Now, this particular part of the press conference has always stuck out to me. The fact that they clearly say here, what will those closest to you think of when they realise that you're responsible for these murders, for this heinous crime against these two young girls, basically? Now, that tells me that they're not looking for some kind of loner, some kind of transient individual who has no friends, no connections, a hermit. We're not looking for that type of individual here. We're looking for someone, as they say, hiding in plain sight. Someone who has or leads a fairly normal life, has connections, friends, family, maybe even work colleagues, workmates, people who he socialises with. He has people that maybe depend on him, but certainly he has emotional connections or family ties. This isn't a sole loner individual that they're talking about here. And again, that is reflected on what we know at this stage in terms of Richard Allen. So as I say, with this press conference, a lot of it does appear to be quite scattered in terms of the two different sketches. One individual looking like he's in his 40s, late 40s, maybe even in his early 50s, and another individual who looks like he's around 18 to 22 years of age. We also have that age range put out here in the press conference that they're looking for someone between the ages of 18 and 40. Obviously, very widespread, very ambiguous, not really pinpointing anyone in particular with that information that they gave out. But then we move on to stuff which, as I say, resonates with more in terms of what we're looking at this point in time, in the present time, with Richard Allen, a family man, a local Delphi resident, someone who has connections, people that, as I said earlier, people that maybe even depend on him, people that are going to be incredibly shocked when this individual is finally brought to justice. And that is reflected in Richard Allen. So that does make a lot of sense. So could it have been that they were on the right track back in 2019? But it actually took going to Keegan Kline, putting or joining all the dots together to eventually come round to Richard Allen. Anyway, do leave your own thoughts, theories and feelings in the comment section below regarding this particular police press conference. What track do you believe that they were on during this time period? Did something go wrong during the investigation which led them away from what they believed they were looking for in 2019? Or was this all part of the bigger picture? Anyway, many thanks for joining me for this particular video. Very shortly in front of you, you'll be able to see the Delphi playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. So feel free to check those out at your leisure. And as I say, many thanks for joining me for this particular video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.